Hi people, it's Sarkovist here and welcome to the Warlords of Draenor beta. Please keep in mind that this is a beta and therefore everything you see here is subject to change. In this video I'm going to be talking about general stuff regarding the Warlords of Draenor, and so the big thing that people are a bit split on when it comes to the Warlords of Draenor is this new boost to 90 option. So rather than having to go through all the old content now, you can instead just go straight into the Warlords of Draenor stuff, and there's certainly an argument to be made for and against this. One thing that's an interesting point that someone made once: long-term players will feel that new players don't deserve to just go straight into the new content. Before this, you would always have to go through the old stuff in order to reach the new. So when I first started playing in the Burning Crusade, as I've mentioned loads of times now, I had to go through vanilla, which was really quite painful at the time. The questing system was not well done. I had to go through that to reach the new Burning Crusade stuff. And I would have absolutely loved to boost through and get to the Burning Crusade. I'd love to have got to Outland straight away, but I couldn't. That just wasn't the way it was done. You had to earn your way there. So I had to go through those difficult vanilla questing zones, those difficult dungeons, and then eventually I arrived in Outland, where the zones were more entertaining to go through, the questing system was better, the dungeons were better, and it almost felt like I'd arrived in this exclusive area. You know, not everyone could be here, and I would actually talk to my guild about this new place called Outland and how it was so much better than Azeroth and how there were these floating islands, but now everyone can get into Draenor, and that might be something that isn't something that long-term players will agree with. But on the other hand, an interesting fact I heard a while ago was that a lot of players actually quit the game within the first 10 levels, and you can understand why. I mean, imagine you've just chosen a dwarf. You've chosen a dwarf because you like the look of the race and you just want to go with it. You end up in Dun Morog, and you end up in that really quite boring and dull starting zone. So perhaps you've decided to play World of Warcraft because you saw one of the awesome cinematics that make the game look far more awesome than it really is, let's be honest. And you basically start killing these trogs, which are the most dull looking creatures you can imagine. You also kill some boars as well, reinforcing that old stereotype. So you end up doing this rather boring area, and you think, why on earth would I want to play this game? Maybe you're even on the trial and you just think, I'm not going to start paying a subscription to do this for so long. I mean, although there have been some slight graphical improvements, it is essentially a 2004 zone in Dun Morog. Apart from the gnome area, but you don't go to the gnome area if you're a dwarf. So you can understand why they'd want to instead make you, rather than going to Dun Morog, you go to the Tanarn jungle. And instead of killing boars, you instead kill these massive orcs. And the first thing you see is that amazing looking fight before the Dark Portal with all the Iron Horde versus the Alliance and the Horde. That's going to be a much better hook, isn't it, really, when you think about it, than killing those really basic primitive creatures. So from a business standpoint and just from an enjoyment from the player's point of view standpoint, it does make a lot of sense when you think about it. Another interesting thing this game does is adding 10 extra levels as opposed to the 5 we've been accustomed to recently. This could go two ways, you know. It could be 10 levels and that sounds like it's a lot more, but they might make it so the amount of XP you gain is a lot faster, and therefore, although it is 10 extra levels, it is still the same amount of time. They might go down that route. But then again, let's be honest, it's funner to level up more frequently, isn't it? It makes you feel like you're progressing faster. Even if you're, proportionally speaking, no closer to getting to the end game content than you were in Mr. Pandaria, leveling up at a quicker rate makes you feel like you're moving through the game, much faster, and you're actually getting stuff done. So being 10 extra levels as opposed to 5 doesn't mean a great deal to me, but I think it's a positive, definitely, as opposed to a negative. I can't think of any bad things to come of it. Something I noticed about the Warlords of Draenor is that this is the first time the World of Warcraft expansion won't be featuring a new class or a new race. So back in the Burning Crusade we had the Dranei and we had the Blood Elves. Then in Wrath of the Lich King we had the hero class Death Knight. Then in Cataclysm we had the Worgen and we had the Goblins. In Mr. Pandaria we have the Pandas and the Monks. The Pandaren to be more specific. But in the upcoming Warlords of Draenor we won't have either of those. And initially that sounds like a negative, but there are a few potential reasons why this is. The first one being that if they're doing all the new character models, it would be a bit distracting if they also had to work on an entirely new race in and of itself. The other benefit we might get from this is that because they don't have to make a new starting zone, which is quite a lot of effort, I mean that's new quests and new landscape, because of that they can spend more time on Draenor itself. And I guess you could say we're already seeing the benefits of that. I mean, although both factions both start in the Tanaan jungle, depending on whether you're Alliance or Horde, you go to a different second zone. So the Horde will go to Frostfire Ridge, and then the Alliance go to, as you can see here, Shadowmoon. Something that's been a concern to all Warcraft players for a long time now is that the game can seem at times as if it's getting more and more casual. From what I've seen so far, there aren't as many spells available to you, and therefore that might indicate that the game is heading more and more in that direction. However, and this is quite important, now while I haven't actually been in a dungeon yet, and I do very much plan on doing so once I've got to level 92 on this Paladin, I've heard stories that the dungeons are very difficult, like back to the heroics in Burning Crusade, and they were actually tricky. They required coordination, something that seems to have disappeared nowadays. Before I say the game's become more casual, I will try out these new dungeons, and then I will report back on whether that is a false claim or not. A concern I mentioned when I first started doing these beta videos was that I thought Outland and Draenor would have far too much in common, and it would give a unwelcome sense of deja vu. I mean, I'm all for nostalgia, but if you're going through the same continent with only a few changes made, that can be very monotonous after a while, so I was afraid that would happen. I think even though I've only been through 3 zones at this point, Frostfire, Tanaan and Shadowmoon Valley, I can report that I'm pretty confident this is almost unrecognisable from Outland. In fact, if it wasn't for the zones that are named the same and the fact we knew that Draenor was Outland, or Outland was Draenor, probably better to say, I wouldn't know these were related, because Shadowmoon Valley, for example, while sharing the name is, and I'm going to show a little bit here, now I am standing in exactly the same position, right, on the map, basically just up in the top north west corner, looking down. As you can see, not only are the general tones and effects different, the landscape has been reshaped. So, although it shares the same name as Shadowmoon Valley, they both have the same name, they are so different. And the same goes for the Tanaan jungle. Well, the bit we saw around the Dark Portal is very different. Frostfire Ridge looks, it's nothing like Blade's Edge Mountains, I believe they were called. Similar to Mists of Pandaria, going into this we don't know who the main villain is going to be. We understand that the Warlords of Draenor are obviously going to be villains, and there's probably going to be dungeons that you go in and fight them, maybe even raids, or maybe there will even be a massive council battle, maybe something like that. But we don't know who the main villain is. And I'll be perfectly honest, I don't want it to be any of the Warlords themselves. I don't want to fight another Orc, because we just did that in Mists of Pandaria, killing Garrosh. I want it to be someone who's been working in the background, someone who's orchestrated all these events, who allowed Garrosh to go back in time and make this Iron Horde. I want it to be someone who we don't even see coming. And I think we can make a bit of speculation, and I think everyone's going to be wanting a different villain, and I'll be honest, I know who I want to be the main villain. I want it to be either Sargeras or kil'jaeden. Of those two, I'd say kil'jaeden more, because I want them to save Sargeras for pretty much when the game is about to end. I want Sargeras to be the ultimate endgame boss, as he should be, because he's the Dark Titan, the most powerful enemy, arguably one of the most powerful entities in the entire Warcraft lore. But kil'jaeden is an interesting enemy. We've already destroyed Archimonde, and yet we have fought kil'jaeden before. But if you'll remember correctly, he was only half spawned into this world, and we merely knocked him back into the Sunwell. He was not defeated. And also there's a lot of lore surrounding kil'jaeden and Draenor. He was the one who came to Ner'zhul and attempted to turn him against the Draenei. He found out, but then gul'dan betrayed him, and gul'dan was corrupted. Basically, kil'jaeden played a massive role in corrupting the Orcs. So he would make sense as an enemy as well. He would be, I don't know if they'll go that way for certain, but it would definitely be probably my favourite option if kil'jaeden becomes the main bad guy of this expansion. Something I did read on a forum though was that some people have suspected quite rightly that the Infinite Dragonflight will have a part to play in this. I mean, Garrosh was taken back in time after all. Now, I think that could be a very good explanation as to how he got back there. But I have a feeling that the Infinite Dragonflight, a member, whatever member it is, will not be the main boss. I think there'll be a tool. I'm very confident that there will be a dungeon somewhere, be it in the Caverns of Time or on Draenor, that will feature an infinite Dragonflight member that you have to kill. Maybe they're the main one responsible, maybe not. But I don't think, to be honest, I don't want an infinite Dragonflight member to be the end boss. Although something that could very well be true is that the corrupted version of Nozdormu could be behind this. I believe his corrupted name was Muruzond, I think, from that Cataclysm dungeon. If you want to see more of the Warlords of Draenor beta, you may like to subscribe to my channel Archivist42. As always people, thanks very much for watching and see you next time.